May 29th, 1453, the world changed forever. After 1,000 years of defiance, the walls of Constantinople, the greatest fortress of the Middle Ages, finally fell. It was the day when the Byzantine Empire breathed its last, and when a new empire rose from its ashes, the Ottoman Empire. Some call it the true end of the medieval world and the dawn of a new age. For centuries, Constantinople was the crown jewel of the East. Founded by Emperor Constantine the Great in the year 330, it was more than just a city. It was the beating heart of an empire. Its towering walls, stretching more than 14 miles, had withstood countless sieges. Arabs, Persians, Bulgars, and even Crusaders had tested them, but the city endured. Inside lay treasures of unimaginable wealth, libraries filled with ancient knowledge, the towering Hagia Sophia, the greatest cathedral in Christendom, and bustling markets that connected Europe to the riches of the Silk Road. To the Christian world, it was the last Rome. To the Ottomans, it was a prize long promised. In 1451, a new Ottoman ruler ascended the throne, Sultan Mehmed II. He was only 19 years old, but he carried an obsession that burned like fire: to take Constantinople. For generations, Ottoman sultans had dreamed of capturing the city, but Mehmed believed destiny was on his side. A prophecy was well known in the Islamic world: Constantinople will be conquered. Blessed is the commander who conquers it, and blessed are his soldiers. Determined to fulfill it, Mehmed began preparations on a scale never seen before. He commissioned the largest cannon the world had ever known, the Basilica Cannon, a monstrous weapon so huge it took 60 oxen and hundreds of men to move. But he was not relying on brute force alone. To outsmart the Byzantines' naval defences, Mehmed built a fleet of over 400 ships, and even prepared to drag them across land to bypass the massive chain boom blocking the Golden Horn. The young sultan was determined. Constantinople would fall. By the mid-15th century, the Byzantine Empire was a shadow of its former self. Once stretching across the Mediterranean, it now consisted of little more than Constantinople itself and a handful of scattered territories. The city that had once housed 500,000 people had dwindled to barely 50,000. Its treasury was nearly empty, its walls crumbling in places. Emperor Constantine XI, the last of the Byzantine emperors, pleaded with the kingdoms of Western Europe for aid. But centuries of division between the Orthodox East and Catholic West had left deep scars. Some help arrived. A small contingent of Genoese mercenaries under the commander Giovanni Giustiniani, but not nearly enough to face the might of Mehmed's army. And so, as spring of 1453 arrived, the defenders of Constantinople, perhaps 7,000 men in total, braced themselves against an Ottoman force of over 80,000. Inside the city, morale was grim but unbroken. Emperor Constantine XI refused to flee. He vowed to stand with his people to the very end. Giustiniani, the Genoese commander, took charge of the land walls. Skilled and battle-hardened, He was the most capable warrior the Byzantines had. Citizens prayed constantly in Hagia Sophia. Priests led candlelit processions, asking for divine intervention. To the faithful, Constantinople was not just a city, it was the last stronghold of Christendom in the East. On April 6, 1453, the siege began. The Ottoman cannons thundered against the city's walls, shaking the ground itself. For the first time in history, Constantinople's legendary defences were vulnerable. Day after day, the bombards hammered the Theodosian walls, leaving craters in stone that had once seemed indestructible. But the defenders fought back fiercely. Byzantine engineers rushed to repair the breaches each night, piling earth and rubble into the gaps. In daring naval raids, their smaller, nimbler ships harassed Ottoman galleys in the Golden Horn. Mehmed tried to tunnel beneath the walls, sending sappers to lay explosives. The Byzantines countered by digging their own tunnels, meeting the invaders underground in brutal, torchlit clashes. Weeks passed. The city still held, but cracks were appearing, both in the walls and in the defenders' strength. Before dawn on May 29th, Mehmed gave the order. The full might of the Ottoman army surged toward Constantinople. Wave after wave of soldiers stormed the walls, first irregular troops, then the fearsome Janissaries, the Sultan's elite warriors. The air was filled with smoke, fire, and the deafening roar of cannon. At the critical moment, Giovanni Giustiniani, the Genoese commander, was gravely wounded. His soldiers, panicked, began to retreat. Seeing the collapse, Emperor Constantine XI is said to have thrown off his imperial regalia and shouted, "The city is falling, and I will not live as an emperor without an empire." He charged into the fray, fighting like a common soldier. His body was never recovered. By morning, the Ottoman banner flew over Constantinople. The city had fallen. For 3 days, Constantinople was subjected to looting, as was Ottoman custom. Churches were ransacked, treasures stolen, and thousands of survivors enslaved. Hagia Sophia, once the grandest cathedral in Christendom, was converted into a mosque. When the Sultan entered the city, he gazed at its ruins and reportedly recited a verse. The spider weaves the curtains in the palace of the Caesars. The owl calls the watches in the towers of Afrasiab. A reminder that even the greatest empires fall. From that day forward, Constantinople became Istanbul, the new capital of the Ottoman Empire. The fall of Constantinople sent shockwaves across the world. To the Christian kingdoms of Europe, it was a catastrophe. The last remnant of Rome had vanished. But with Byzantine scholars fleeing west, carrying precious manuscripts, knowledge once thought lost returned, fueling the Renaissance. Meanwhile, the Ottoman Empire rose as a superpower, controlling trade routes between East and West. Cut off from the riches of Asia, European nations began searching for new paths to India and China, a quest that would spark the age of exploration. In a very real sense, the fall of Constantinople did not just end the Middle Ages. It set the stage for the modern world. The fall of Constantinople was more than the collapse of a city. It was the death of an empire and the birth of a new era. If you enjoyed this journey into history, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories of the past that shaped our present.